It was supposed to be mine. The house, the air, the silence between the trees. After 12 weeks in corporate hell, 12-hour days, redlined nerves, revisions so brutal I'd forget my own name, I told myself I'd earned something quiet. A lake house in Maine. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a private dock, cedar scent stitched into the walls. I paid for it myself. Every cent, booked the dates. Reserved the hot tub, the fireplace package, the sauna access. I even upgraded the pantry service because I wanted to taste the reward. Not just escape. I needed to feel like I had taken back something the world had taken from me. Megan was the only one I invited. She'd been patient in her way during the project. I thought a week by the water would do us both good. She was excited at first, or she played the part, kissed my neck the morning we packed, said it would be just what we needed. Her tone carried the weight of a well-practiced script, light, rhythmic, just warm enough to make me believe it. But I missed the quiet hesitation behind her eyes, the way she tapped her phone screen too fast, thumbs twitching as if someone were waiting on her. Then she asked about Leah and Jordan. They've had such a rough year, she said. Could they come too? It'll be fun. You won't even notice them. It was posed like a small favor, as though her request wouldn't tilt the whole trip off its axis. I hesitated, then gave her the line I thought would protect the shape of my plan. If they pay for themselves. She smiled, kissed my cheek. You're the best. That should have been it. A clean transaction. An adult compromise. I had no reason to doubt her. But even on the drive, something felt off. Megan was glued to her phone, kept giggling at texts she wouldn't show me, whispered with Leah in the back seat while I drove, laughing like I wasn't there. I asked once about the reservation details. The check-in time looked different than what I'd booked. She waved it off. It's all handled, she said. Don't stress. What matters is we're all going to be together. But her voice didn't match the words. It floated past me, light, dismissive. The way someone speaks to a waiter who's lingered too long. We arrived around 4. Gravel cracked beneath the tires. Pines rose like pillars. The house should have looked like salvation. But it didn't. Leah and Jordan were already there. Their cars parked like they belonged. Wine glasses in hand. Music playing from the main house deck. And their shoes were by the front door like this was theirs. Like I was the guest. Megan got out and waved to them like it was a college reunion. Then she turned to me and handed me a key. Not to the house I had booked, but to the guest cabin. A slouched little structure 30 feet from the main place. Barely wide enough to stretch in. It had its own bathroom, sure. But no fireplace, no lake view, and a thermostat that blinked red when I touched it. Is this a joke? I asked, holding up the key. Megan didn't blink. It's cozy, she said. And they got here first. So I figured, we'd just take the cabin. The reservation had been changed. Quietly, without my name. I opened the app on my phone. The booking ID didn't match. The dates were right, the address too. But the guest listed as primary wasn't me anymore. Megan had updated the account. I looked at her. Really looked. And something in her expression made my chest tighten. She wasn't sorry. Not surprised. Not apologetic. Just waiting for me to accept it. I didn't say anything. I let the lie hang between the trees, untouched. The others smiled and laughed and clinked glasses on the deck I'd paid for. Jordan was already sprawled out in one of the hammocks, scrolling his phone like it was his birthright. Leah was pulling snacks from the stocked fridge, the fridge I'd paid to fill. They didn't even say hello. And Megan? She was gone in seconds. Slipped into the house, wine in hand, as though I'd find my own way. I stood outside for a long time. Something in me had shifted. Not like a sudden collapse. More like the first hairline crack in a dam. I carried my bag to the guest cabin. The door creaked. The floor sloped left. The bed groaned when I sat on it. The mattress stiff. The air cold enough to sting. There were no curtains. The window looked out onto a wall of trees. No view of the lake. No fireplace. Just a single space heater and a manual warning not to run it too long. I sat there in the dim light and stared at my hands. I had paid for all of this. The booking, the upgrades, the lake access, the food, even the welcome bottle of wine, which I found opened and already half gone on the main house deck. And yet I was here, exiled to the cold edge of the property like a hired driver who had overstayed his welcome. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal or how carefully she had planned it. Later that evening, I came up to the main house. The lights were soft. Dinner was being prepped. A cheese plate already picked over, shrimp sautéing on the stove. Megan was laughing with Leah at the kitchen island, her hand on Jordan's arm as he told some story about hiking in Vermont. None of it was meant for me. No seat had been set for me. I stood there in the doorway like a stranger. Eventually Megan saw me. She smiled, that same rehearsed smile. "Hey babe, you hungry?" I didn't answer. I just watched her slice a lime with the knife I bought for this trip. She wore the sweater I gave her last Christmas, the one she had once said made her feel safe. But now it looked like part of someone else's life. I asked her again about the change in the booking. She didn't even pause. "We needed more space," she said. "And you were so stressed from work." I thought, why not make it easier on everyone? Easier. That word hit me like a slap. Because nothing about this was easy. Not the deception. Not the role I'd been demoted to. Not the realization that I'd become the footnote in someone else's story. I didn't argue. Not that night. Instead, I sat through dinner while they laughed around me. They toasted to friendship, to summer, to new memories. Not once did anyone toast to the man who made it possible. Afterward, I slipped back into the guest cabin. The wind howled through the trees. The heater clicked twice, then went silent. And in that silence, something else arrived. Not anger, not yet, but awareness. I had been erased, and Megan had planned it that way. The billing confirmation came the next morning. I'd gone up to the main house early, hoping, foolishly, that maybe things would settle overnight. That Megan would pull me aside, explain herself, say it was a mistake. But there was no quiet conversation waiting. No apology. Only Leah stretching in a robe I'd never seen before, pouring herself orange juice like she lived there. "We're heading to the lake trail later," she said casually. "You should come." The audacity was surgical. Smooth, practiced. I made coffee. Alone. Megan didn't come down. She'd slept in the main house. That much was clear. I returned to the guest cabin with my cup. Still warm, untouched. The day already felt poisoned. It was around 11 when I walked to the front desk. Something had been gnawing at me, a tug in my gut, telling me to check. I said I was there to confirm amenities under the booking. Gave them my name. The woman at the desk frowned politely. "I'm sorry, sir. The booking is under a Megan Caro." I blinked. "It should be under my name. I made the original reservation." She turned her screen slightly. "It looks like the reservation was modified 3 days ago. Room assignments, meal plans, charges all redirected to the new primary guest." Her voice stayed neutral, but her eyes scanned me for recognition. "Is there a problem?" I asked to see the billing summary. She hesitated, then handed me a printed sheet. It was long. 3 pages. I flipped through line after line. Premium packages, spa appointments, kayak tours, a sunset dinner cruise booked for 4. Every charge linked to the same card. My card. Even the welcome groceries, the ones Megan had pretended were a surprise, had been billed to me. I ran my thumb down the page. Some of the charges were from before we even arrived. She'd planned this. Not just the room switch. The whole thing. She'd coordinated a luxury vacation under my name and turned herself into the benevolent host, all while I slept in a guest cabin like a fool. I didn't react. Not in front of the woman behind the counter. I thanked her, folded the papers, and left. Outside, the air was sharp. Birds called across the lake. And yet the world felt muffled, like I'd been submerged in something dark and cold. I walked the grounds alone for nearly an hour. Through pine and birch, past shallow creek beds and rustling brush. My mind churned through every moment of the last week. The whispers on the drive. The booking confirmation she dismissed. The way Leah and Jordan moved through the house like it was theirs. And Megan, always smiling, always just out of reach. I remembered the way she looked at me when she handed me that key. Like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. By the time I returned to the main house, the decision had already been made. They were out kayaking, the three of them. Loud voices carrying across the lake. Megan's laugh echoing like a ghost I used to love. I walked straight back to the front desk. I asked for the manager. I showed him my ID, my original booking receipt, the charge statements. I kept my voice calm, collected, professional. The kind of tone you use when you're about to tear something down brick by brick. The manager was polite, then apologetic, then alarmed. Within 20 minutes, the charges were reversed. All of them. The premium upgrades, the meal packages, the activities. Everything Megan had coordinated without my consent was removed. My original booking was restored, including full rights to the main house. And then came the part one hadn't planned, but felt right the moment it left my lips. I want the guest cabin reassigned, I said. Make it their room. Megan Caro and her guests. If they want to stay, they can take the cabin. The manager didn't flinch. Of course, sir. I'll inform them when they return. No, I said. Don't. Let them find out on their own. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. I walked back to the main house, took my time, opened the door with my key, the key I should have used from the beginning. The kitchen was quiet. The wine bottles were half empty. A pair of flip-flops sat by the fireplace. I gathered my bag from the guest cabin and moved it into the master bedroom. Felt good. Not triumphant. Not petty. Just right. I didn't touch any of their things. I didn't pack their bags. I simply returned to the space that had been mine from the start. When they came back from the lake, I was in the living room. Fire crackling. A drink in hand. Megan's face fell the second she opened the door. Leah's jaw tensed. Jordan froze in the hallway. Hey, Megan said cautiously. What's going on? I didn't answer. She looked around, saw my bag in the corner. Saw the folded billing papers on the table. Then her face cracked. Wait, did you talk to the manager? I nodded once. She stepped forward. Okay, look, maybe I should have told you about the room switch. But it just made more sense this way. You work so hard. We wanted to make it easy. You booked activities under my name, I said flatly. Charged my card. Signed for premium upgrades using my identity. She flinched. I didn't think it would matter. We're a team. Why does it matter who paid? Those words. They landed like a punch. I stood slowly. Walked to the door. You'll find your things in the guest cabin, I said. That's where you're staying now. All three of you. Leah stepped forward, voice sharp. You can't do that. I met her eyes. I already did. Jordan stayed silent. He hadn't spoken a word since walking in. Megan tried again. Can we just talk? Please. Let's sit down. No. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I simply stepped back, closed the door, and turned the lock. They stood on the porch in stunned silence. That night, I made dinner for myself. Opened a bottle of wine, one of the ones I had paid for. Ate alone on the back deck, watching the sun melt behind the lake. Their voices filtered through the trees from the guest cabin, bitter and frantic. The balance had shifted, and they knew it. The next morning, Megan knocked on the door, softly, like she was knocking on something that had already been buried. I opened it halfway. She stood there, hoodie pulled tight around her, face bare. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded. Not the same woman who'd giggled across wine glasses 2 days ago. This Megan was smaller, quieter. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We just wanted to have a good time. I let the silence fill the room. She looked up. You've always taken care of everything. You always handle things. I just assumed that I wouldn't mind being used? She closed her eyes. That you wouldn't see it like that. I stared at her, then asked the only question that mattered. Would you have told me the truth if I hadn't found out? She didn't answer. and that was all I needed. I stood, walked to the door. She followed. At the threshold, she hesitated. So, are we breaking up? I looked at her, really looked. I already did. 3 days ago, when you chose comfort and control over respect. Her lip trembled. I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. Then I closed the door. Behind it, the silence felt earned. Not peaceful, not clean, but honest. That was the night I stopped being the background. The lake house emptied, slowly. Not with slammed doors or shouting matches, but with the quiet, tired movements of people who know the game is over. Leah left first. She said she had other plans for the weekend. Took the better part of an hour to pack, slamming cabinets a little too loudly, pretending not to make eye contact. When she passed me on the porch, she didn't say goodbye. Just walked to her car with her sunglasses already on. Jordan followed 2 hours later. No explanation. Just a quiet shuffle down the walkway, his duffel bag over his shoulder, earbuds in. I didn't stop him. I didn't offer help. And he didn't ask. Megan stayed. She lingered in the guest cabin 2 more nights, pretending to weigh her options. Pretending she was the one deciding how this story ended. I saw her from the kitchen window, pacing the gravel path between the cabin and the dock, phone in hand, staring at messages she didn't answer. She never came back inside the main house. Not once. On the final morning, I heard the click of her suitcase wheels. A soft cough. Then silence. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. She didn't take the wine glasses. Didn't take the robe she'd borrowed from the linen closet. Didn't even take the lime she'd sliced on the first night. It sat in the fridge, curled at the edges, slowly dying. I stayed the full week. Alone. Woke up at dawn. Cooked quiet breakfasts. Drank black coffee by the lake, watching the mist rise like breath from the water. I kayaked alone, ate alone, sat by the fireplace alone. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something close to peace. Not joy, not healing, but silence that didn't accuse me of failure. When I checked out, the manager handed me a printed receipt. All charges finalized, he said. No additional balance. He paused, then added, most guests come here looking for something. Peace, escape, clarity. You look like someone who found something else. I gave him a tight nod. Maybe, I said. Maybe I just stopped pretending. I drove home without music. The miles unspooled in silence. Phone buzzed twice. Megan. I didn't answer. I arrived to a house that felt unfamiliar. Everything in its place, yet nothing where it belonged. There were still framed photos of us on the hallway table, me, her, and Hannah, her daughter. Disney trip 2 summers ago. Matching t-shirts. Forced smiles. I left the frame face down. For 5 years, I'd helped raise that girl. Helped shape her days. Packed her lunches. Drove her to dance recitals and waited in parking lots while she rehearsed in sweat and nerves. I remembered brushing her hair when she was too tired to do it herself. Standing in for her father at the school's Dad Day picnic, because her real one hadn't called in 3 months. He always forgot her birthday. I never did. I was there the night she broke her wrist on the trampoline. Megan had been at work. I drove Hannah to urgent care, held her hand while they cast it, bought her ice cream afterward to dull the sting. She'd looked up at me then, face pale, eyes glassy, and whispered, "Thanks, Dad." She called me that once. Only once. But I carried it for years like a badge. The night Megan returned home, she acted like nothing had happened. She came through the door with the sound of keys and perfume, said something about traffic, tossed her jacket over the chair, asked if I wanted to order Thai. I didn't answer. She stood there, lips pursed, waiting for the temperature of the room to rise. When it didn't, she walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of wine. That became the new rhythm. Her pretending, me withdrawing. The days passed. Quiet, hollow days. Her laughter, when it came, didn't reach me. Her apologies, when they did arrive, were bloodless. Empty syllables delivered in the wrong tone. She called what happened at the lake a misunderstanding. Said I'd overreacted. Blamed stress, wine, timing. But never herself. She never once said the word betrayal. Never once used the word used. So I didn't forgive. I didn't rage either. I simply stopped showing up. Emotionally, financially, I cooked for myself, did my own laundry, moved my things into the guest bedroom, canceled our shared grocery deliveries, our joint calendar, our streaming accounts. I logged into the bank app and ended every auto transfer, every little convenience she'd once leaned on. One morning, I opened the shared budgeting spreadsheet, the one I'd built, managed, kept updated, and deleted it. Gone in 5 seconds. She noticed after a week. "Hey," she said one night, "why isn't the tuition payment showing up in the log?" I didn't look up from my laptop. "Because I stopped paying it." She blinked. "What?" "For Hannah's school." I stopped. She scoffed, the sound brittle. "Why would you do that?" "You know why." "No," she snapped. "I really don't." I closed the laptop, looked at her, really looked. She was scared. Not panicked. Not sad. Scared. Because she knew the foundation was cracking. And I wasn't running to fix it. "You used me," I said quietly. "And now you're realizing what life looks like without me playing dad to everyone." Her face flushed. "That's not fair. You said you wanted to be part of her life. You said you loved her." I did. I still do. But love without respect is a leash. And I'm done being tethered to people who treat me like background noise. The fight never truly ignited. It flickered, then fizzled. Because there were no more lies to expose. No more masks to drop. She'd shown me who she was. And I finally believed her. The next week, Hannah came home late from school. Threw her bag on the counter. Scrolled her phone. Didn't say hello. I was folding laundry at the table. She hovered by the fridge. Then turned. "Mom said you're not paying for school anymore," she said. I nodded. "That's right." She snorted. "Wow, that's petty." I kept folding. She crossed her arms. "Is it because of what happened on the trip?" I said nothing. She shook her head. "You're not even my real dad. I don't know why you expected everyone to treat you like one." I looked at her. "I didn't expect it. I earned it." She laughed. "Well, stop trying to impress us. You're not our dad." And there it was. The truth. The echo of something deeper than hurt. Rejection that had been rehearsed in silence for years. I nodded. Folded the last towel. Then stood and walked past her. That same day I called the school. Removed my card from the tuition account. Canceled the clothing subscription I'd been footing for her. Pulled the plug on her weekend activities, dance, tutoring, Uber credits. All of it. The next time she needed something, she reached out to the man who left. He didn't answer. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel responsible. I had done what fathers do. I had given, sacrificed, stayed. But I wasn't her father. I was just the one who showed up. Until I stopped. The quiet settled like dust. Slowly, invisibly, until every corner of the house felt abandoned. But it wasn't physical absence I noticed. It was the absence of expectation. No more requests. No more texts asking for gas money or last-minute rides or help with tuition deadlines. No more subtle glances across dinner when the bill arrived. No more weekend plans made around my wallet. The silence wasn't empty. It was honest. Megan tiptoed around it at first. She thought, maybe, if she kept dinner warm or folded my clothes just right, the weather inside me would change. She didn't understand that it had already changed, and not in a way she could reverse. I remember the night she finally broke the spell. It was raining. One of those steady, windless storms that makes the world feel like it's being washed away inch by inch. I was sitting in the den, the room that had become mine. Reading, whiskey in hand, the window open just enough to hear the rain. She came in quietly, not dressed to seduce. No makeup. Just her raw, nervous, standing in the doorway like a child sent to confess something. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I set the book down. She sat across from me. Not next to me. Not too close. She knew better by then. "I know I messed up," she said. "I know I lied. And I know I took advantage of you." I let her speak. She needed to. But it wasn't malicious. I swear. I thought you didn't mind. You always took care of things. You never complained. I thought, she faltered. I thought we were a team. That word again. Team. I took a sip of the whiskey. You changed the booking, I said flatly. Behind my back. You gave my place in that house to your friends. You built a vacation around my money, and then left me outside of it. She flinched. I know. I didn't see it then, but I do now. I nodded slowly, let the silence stretch. She waited, and when I didn't speak, she added, and with Hannah, I shouldn't have let her speak to you that way. I looked up. You didn't just let her. You raised her to believe it was okay. Her breath caught. I didn't raise my voice. I never did. But some truths are louder than volume. I spent 5 years stepping into a father's role, I continued. And when it suited you, you encouraged it. Called me dependable, strong, said you felt safe. But the moment it got uncomfortable, the moment money and respect were in conflict, you shrank. You disappeared. And you let her do the same. Megan shook her head. She's just a teenager. She doesn't get how much you did. She doesn't need to. You did. She looked away. I stood up, walked to the window. I loved you, I said. Not casually, not conveniently. I built my days around you, paid for your peace of mind, covered the gaps your ex left behind, not because I had to, but because I believed I was helping build something that would one day love me back. I turned toward her. She looked small in that chair, smaller than I'd ever seen her. And all I got in return was silence. Silence when they disrespected me. Silence when they erased me. Silence when I was alone in that cabin, eating food I paid for while you drank wine on the deck with people who never even said thank you. Her lips parted. She wanted to defend herself, but there was nothing left to say. I'm not asking for love, I said. I never did, but I won't live without respect. Then I left the room. That was the last real conversation we had. She moved out 3 weeks later. Said it was temporary, but we both knew what it was. Took her clothes, some books, left the framed photos. I think she expected I'd call, that I'd miss the company, the warmth, the rhythm of shared mornings. I didn't. What I missed, what I grieved, was the man I'd been for her. The man who believed, stubbornly, that presence could replace blood. That if I just gave enough, loved hard enough, waited long enough, I'd be seen. I'd be chosen. I'd be enough. I buried that man. The first week after she left, Hannah texted. It wasn't an apology. It was a list. Tuition due. Card declined. Dance trip next month. Did I still have the account info? I stared at the message for a long time, then typed one sentence. Ask your father. She didn't reply. A few days later, Megan called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, her voice tight, rehearsed. She's struggling. School's important. Don't punish her just because we didn't work out. I deleted the message, because that's what they never understood. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was freeing myself from the quiet indignity of being used, from the gaslighting that called exploitation love, from the family that saw me as functional, not foundational. I had built the scaffolding of their lives. Invisible, constant, expected. But scaffolding isn't part of the architecture. It's meant to be removed once the building stands on its own. They never saw me, just leaned on me, until I stepped away, and the structure groaned under its own weight. I heard from a friend, weeks later, that Hannah's father hadn't returned her calls, that her dance trip was canceled, that Megan was working overtime, scrambling to cover the gap I'd left behind. And the strange part? I didn't feel vindicated. I felt nothing, not because I didn't care, but because I had cared for too long. I had emptied myself to fill them, and the well was dry. Sometimes I still see their names on my phone. Missed calls, messages I don't open. On holidays, maybe, on her birthday, the digital ghosts of a family that never let me be more than a ghost in return. I haven't blocked them. I want them to see that I'm still here, that I simply chose to stop answering. Because this wasn't a story of revenge. It was a story of realization. that love without respect is a leash, that giving without acknowledgement becomes servitude, that being present while being erased is its own kind of death. So now I live simply, quiet mornings, coffee I make for one, a house without arguments or expectations, no more invisible labor, no more waiting to be seen, and I ask myself often in the silence, was I wrong? Was I cruel for cutting them off? For letting them feel the weight of the world without me holding it up? Or was it the only way to show them the truth? That when you treat someone like nothing, eventually they believe you, and they leave. So I ask you, whoever you are reading this, would you have stayed? Would you have kept giving? Or would you have done what I finally did, and walked away?